Ofo Ezeugwu, and I'm the CEO and president of Untapped Incorporated and Who's Your Landlord.
All right. So I see you got the Who's Your Landlord shirt on. Can you tell everybody about your two companies and how you got them started?
Yeah, like you just said, there's two companies. 2 years ago, actually, last week, I started Untapped Incorporated. The initial premise was supposed to be more of like social media marketing and building the brand awareness of different companies. And so that was how that initially started. And then Who's Your Landlord came about end of February last year. The idea came to my head about something that helps students in terms of housing. And so one of the things I thought was there's always been ways for people to check that there's tenant background check, credit check, that kind of thing. But there's no real way for us to know about our landlords and residents all before we go to those different campuses around the U.S. So Who's Your Landlord allows students to rate and assess their online reviews of other students based on resident talks and others.
That's pretty cool. So it's like rate your professor for.
Exactly for landlords and for residents all.
Got it. So do when you started this, are you a programmer or a coder by any chance?
No, actually, I'm not. What happened was when I was running for the executive office of Temple Student Government at the time, and we were thinking of ways, like I said, to help the students out. And one of the ideas that popped in my mind was the concept that I came up with Who's Your Landlord. So immediately when I came up with the idea, I was very secretive about the idea and kind of getting it out there. But I had asked at that time the president of our Entrepreneurial Food Association, because at that time I was the vice president of marketing. So I asked him if he knew anybody that we did web development for this kind of concept, and he brought up his roommate's name. And that's how it kind of happened. We started meeting in I think March of 2012, and now we stand today.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you got lucky because it takes a while to to find a good web developer.
Exactly, very lucky. And I guess when it comes to connections, you kind of try to ask who you think would have the most connections, and it just so happened that his roommate, was a very good web developer, and from there, continued to put our team together, and now we understand here today.
For sure. All right, so I'm gonna get back to that in a bit, but I wanted to know, like, when you were growing up, did you always know you were going to be an entrepreneur, or did you kind of just stumble upon it? You saw a need, and you're like, I have a solution. Let's make it happen.
No, so growing up, what's funny is it wasn't until maybe I guess junior year you started getting ready for college and that kind of stuff. But I always knew I wanted to study entrepreneurship. But growing up, I'd say like middle school, high school, like up until maybe sophomore, junior year, I didn't really you didn't think of entrepreneurship. You just kind of knew you wanted to do your own thing really. So
Yeah,
once I was like in my later stages in high school, where that's something I really wanted to do. Now I had no idea what that'd be in, but that's what I wanted to study. And Temple at the time was top 5 in the nation in entrepreneurship program. So that had a lot to do with why I went there, and not to mention I love the campus and stuff when I went to visit. So that's really how I got started with the whole concept of entrepreneurship. And then it really hit me. I was working at Mass Mutual 2 years ago during the summer last week when I started Untapped, and I was an insurance producer, health, life, and accident, and just wasn't for me. It just wasn't fun. I found it to be extremely boring, and but what it allowed me to do was it made me realize what I didn't want to do in life. So I
definitely.
took that time to really I started just writing ideas about what I would want to do, what kind of business I want to start. And I think I still have the sheet to this day, but I jotted down maybe like 30 different ideas, and Untapped stuck, and that's kind of how that started, and then everything else kind of came after it.
Yeah, very cool. That's very cool. At least you discovered this early. Some people find this out like 30, 40 years in a life, and they're like, I can't really make a change.
That's very true. And I think for me, what I realized too is the earlier you start, the thing is if you can start it while you're in school, there's a lot of people out there that that want to work, that that have an interest to work or whatever, and not to mention don't work for a salary. You know what I mean? Not to
Yeah,
mention $40,000, $50,000 a year. They kind of catch on to the dream and they want to work with you to build it and get to that point. So that's the beneficial part of starting something in college versus starting it in the real world and then having to off the bat hit up professionals and ask them to work with you. So.
cool. So starting something while in school, what would you say is the biggest obstacle that you've encountered?
Biggest obstacle was definitely time. It's just like 'cause there's not much of it. You know what I mean? You spend
Yeah,
so much time doing work, socializing, and then like I said, I was the vice president of external affairs for Temple University. So I really the time wasn't of the essence. I had to really make time and carve time out. So you found that you wouldn't sleep. You kind of just always moving, and I like that. So I can't complain. But you're always moving, trying to find the next thing and meet the next person, and so that would probably be the most difficult thing. And then of course not only your time, but matching your time up with everybody else's time that you work with.
For sure.
Those are the hardest part.
So if I'm I think I read on your bio that obviously you were part of student government. You have your two companies. You're also a model. So how would you say you've managed your time? Do you have any tips, secrets, advice that you use to be able to keep your business life as well as some type of social life?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and that's what's been cool to me. I feel like I've been able to really keep a social life and still, go out and have a good time with my friends and that kind of stuff. But in terms of time management, like my dad would always tell me when I was younger, make a schedule, make a schedule, make a schedule. And it's funny because your parents will say things to you, but it's not to a certain point where it hits you like I have to do this.
Yeah.
So when I got to, I think really over from sophomore year to my senior year in college, when I started getting more leadership positions on campus, and you start realizing very soon, I think when I map out time for other people in terms of meetings, that kind of stuff, you kind of saw how much time you were left with after classes and that kind of thing. So it's just really sticking with those schedules that you make, and also realizing things will happen where it kind of throws your schedule off, but realizing you have to get it done. Me myself, I've always realized I'm really a goal-oriented person, and so usually if I set out a task, some way, shape, or form, I always make sure I get it done. So sometimes, it would be me writing an essay a week before the essay is actually due because I knew the following week I wouldn't have any time in the world to do it. You make those kind of adjustments to your life, and that really helps the time, man.
For sure. All right, so this is a big question. I know a lot of people experience this when they're going after their dreams and goals. The friends that they have are like, you've changed. You're not the same person. Did you experience any of that? People that were like, one, you're not going to make it, or like, you're foolish, man. Just like, do what everyone else is doing, or they began to back away because you've quote unquote changed and they weren't able to handle that.
So speaking to that, I honestly think like I haven't, in terms of people that I'm close to or my friends, that I haven't really ever gotten that in terms of me changed or anything like that. I think it was more so, I kind of would, like I said, I kind of latch onto something and I kind of go for it. So I've been like a straight shooter my whole life, and so I think that kind of drive and motivation actually ends up driving and motivating some of my friends. I'll have talks with them and they'll be like, hey, I wanted to do this for so long, but now it's like I see you doing what you're doing, and now I have to believe in the field and I can actually get it done. And so I don't think it's necessarily been anything about me changing. I think just and what's funny about people is that you look at things, and I look at for example, once something starts going well, people tend to like latch onto it. So
Definitely.
You're part of your question about how maybe if people you were going to make it, or people were looking at you thinking, why are you doing that? It's kind of foolish. Initially, yeah, from the jump, people are like, why are you putting all your own hard-earned money into an idea that you have no idea whether it's going to succeed or not? But once you get a website up, or once you get your first news article, or once they start seeing people on your team or seeing other people that want to work with you, then all of a sudden others are like, oh, like maybe this can actually happen, But you don't really wait for anybody else to motivate you, because if you do, you're not going to go anywhere. So Definitely. It's all self motivation. I've always been the person that I love pressure. I love when people put pressure on me. I love when people say to me, oh, you're expected to do big things in life, because it makes me want to push to surpass any of their expectations. So I enjoy that. I really do.
Sound like Kobe or Jordan out there, man. Guys, clear out. I got this. About to hit that shot over Elo, and we're going to win the championship.
I mean, that's the mentality that I have, man. I really love like pushing limits and really surpassing what everybody else kind of perceives you doing.
Definitely. So, speaking on surrounding yourself with good people, how did you build up your team? People that I guess could take your vision and run with it, essentially for free. I don't want to call it free labor, but I mean, initially, right. I'm sure they didn't get paid. So, how did you be able to relay your vision to others and I guess delegate responsibilities?
Yeah, so for me, when it came to developing a team, I initially sought out people that and what's funny about this is the first person I worked with was my friend Felix, and he's been my best friend for the past 13 years. And people always say, if you don't want to make business with friendship and that kind of thing, but one thing you realize soon early on is that you need people that believe in you. And so he's one of the people that I knew believed in me the most. And so from the jump, I started working with him, and then from there, what I would do is not even reach out to really close friends. I would reach out to people that I was acquaintances with or I knew like pretty well.
Yeah.
That had a very good skill and they had a very good heart and kind of mental makeup. And so from there is how I would recruit them. And then, but the key with it was we our team stands at 7 people now, and as we were going about adding people to the team, everything was very calculated. So first it was me and Felix, and then it's me and another person, and it wasn't like we just added all of us at the same time and started going. It's like we progressed throughout the year, about a year and a half now of adding to the team. And when it comes to delegating tasks, like I said, you find out what their strength is, which is why you recruited them to begin with. And you explain to them after you set up a meeting, similar to this kind of setup, whether it's through Skype, whether it's in person or on the phone, kind of set up a meeting with them and talk about what their strengths are, where you see them fitting with their company. And then a lot of times they're really, really excited that you can reach out to them and consider them for that position and then kind of work from there. So.
Definitely. All right, so this is just a side note, but for those that are or going to college, obviously like fraternities, sororities are the big thing. But it seems now that in the 21st century, if you have some type of website, some type of blog, you're like the bee's knees. Did you feel that you got a little bit of celebrity power on campus once you got things rolling and started getting published and at different schools and stuff like that?
Yeah, no. So I think what happened was I always had a good number of friends throughout school, but maybe towards my junior year, like I said, sophomore, junior, senior year, when I started getting leadership positions on campus. But I was still, like I said, I still have social gatherings in my house. I still go out to meet up with friends. And so by just being friends with people, and communicating with them on a personal level, people tended to like you, or tended to, wanted to help you move forward and that kind of thing. So then when I then became vice president of the student body, and then also when I started Who's Your Landlord, people started seeing that, hey, like this guy, he's doing something, or he's really trying to do something on campus. We're trying to make a positive change for the future. And so naturally, whether it's professors offering help when you talk to them, or students and friends looking at you and saying, hey, I want to be part of this, like that's kind of how I guess my cloud kind of built at Temple. Or even like, for example, the first day we launched the website was October 24th last year. And I think about 150 T-shirts. I had a launch party at my house, and then I had about 150 T-shirts that I gave to some of the most influential people on campus, and we just were all over campus that day. So that initially people were like, "Oh, wait, what is this about?" So you do different things like that kind of help build it up. But realizing that you can monitor your brand through your social media, through how you present yourself, through different things you do on campus, that really helps in building how people view you.
So pretty much you're a big man on campus. That's what I'm getting. All right. Obviously, you're considered a startup company. That means you don't have a huge budget, but you've been published in multiple magazines, multiple newspapers, print, online, as well as you've grown your the colleges that you list outside of Pennsylvania. So, can you talk about how you did that with essentially no money, and if you have any tips, secret strategies? You don't have to give them away, but if you could just speak on that for a sec.
Yeah. Like you just pinpointed, there wasn't much money to be doling out. Any money I did make, and kind of you alluded to this earlier in terms of acting and modeling, any money I made there, it was literally being moved around different pots. Like it would never go to my pocket; it would go right to the company. So that's kind of and so you find yourself just being broke like 24/7. You get used to it. You know what I mean? A lot of nights where you're eating cup of noodles, I don't say ramen, but cup of noodles, and drinking a lot of water, but you got to do what you got to do. In terms of, working with people, you initially realize certain things you can do and you can get for free for people working with you, and, maybe down the line you can pay them back. But there's other things that need to be paid for right in the beginning. So, for example, shirts or parts of website development, those are things that are costs you have to have from the beginning to really get things going. And so for me, it was, like I said, it was money either I was making through acting and modeling, or by just work I was doing in general, or even sometimes really your parents help out too. And so my parents were extremely helpful in terms of just providing extra funds if I was running low and that kind of thing. Fortunately, it hasn't been any astronomical number. Otherwise I don't know if they really would have built all that money. But it's been enough where we're at the point where we are now. And then you really have to, when it comes to like the publications you're talking about, a lot of it is really just you constantly sending out press releases, sending out emails to different editors, different blogs, different online news publications, and really hoping they run their story. One of the things I've realized and I kind of point out is that out of all the publications we've been on, only one of them was random when the person approached us and said, "Hey, what's this about?" They asked about it, we told them, and they immediately wrote a story about us afterwards. Everything else has been sending 300, 400, 500 emails out, and if even 5 or 10 hit, that's 5 or 10 online news publications. So
Sure.
how you got it.
So how did you build up these partnerships at other schools?
So in terms of the schools, what we do is we actually populate the school part of the website. We populate it with the residence halls and that kind of thing. So we're growing at a steady pace that we feel like we can match with. And what we do a lot of times, we'll contact their off-campus housing office and set up meetings with them. Some schools have been extremely supportive. Temple University, Johns Hopkins University, especially. And then even schools, other schools we reach out to, either say they have something where they can't promote a business or whatever, but they're really high on the website, really high on everything accomplished. So that's really how we set up the partnerships. And I think when it comes to partnerships with those schools, what we're aiming to do is to help them distribute our resource more to their students as well. So raise more of our brand awareness to their student body, because it's a resource that really helps the students. So that's how we continue to grow. We started in Philadelphia, and now we're kind of growing our way up the East Coast and into New York. But we're going to be expanding, so that's exciting.
It's exciting stuff, guys. If you're going to college, obviously, Who's Your Landlord could be getting you a great apartment.
Exactly.
All right, so it seems in this day and age that a lot of people leverage social media to promote music, promote themselves, etc. And for some reason, the general public believes that like these people just became famous. Like I had a conversation the other day, and it's like, yeah, man, like once we get somebody to sponsor our company, we're going to be like the next big thing. That doesn't really happen in real life. So like, how can you talk about how I guess you leveraged the technology in order to help promote your personal brand, help promote whatever you're doing in this 21st century?
Yeah, so the problem we face a lot is now social media has become like just that. It's very social, but the problem is you get bombarded with information. So
Yeah.
log onto your Facebook and there's tons and tons of stuff. Whether it's about looking for like somebody selling their books, somebody subletting their spot on campus, or anything. There's so much information. It's always so random. So the hardest part is kind of trying to differentiate yourself from everything else people are seeing, and then add value to the point where people actually want to know about what you're doing.
Definitely.
So I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult to get people to, especially when it gets to business, to get people to follow or like or really follow up with what you're doing, because they don't want to add another business to their already the sponsors that you see on Facebook. So marketing it and then kind of putting up posts that speak to students' needs. And one thing I realized too is we spend less time talking about what we do, what we're here for, and more time talking about the kind of people that would use our resources. So one thing you realize about Apple, for example, if you watch an Apple commercial, you'll never see the price ever listed. Or you rarely will see the different like megabytes versus this. They won't see much hard, intricate details, because at the end of the day, that's not necessarily what attracts people to it.
Yeah.
They really speak to what that kind of person is like. So somebody who would use the Apple product is somebody who's innovative, and somebody who's creative, somebody who is like limitless in the way they think. So they appeal to those kind of people. And whenever you can speak to somebody on a deeper level, you have a full-time customer or a lifetime customer.
Definitely.
So we try to aim our social media at more so gearing towards what people want to do, what people listen to, what people like to do, and what kind of people would use our website. And then we even, we added our blog, and that just talks about everything from entertainment to the next phase in life, to sports, and different things that would add value to our site that makes me intrigued and want to know more about us. And so a lot of our traffic even comes from people going to the blog and then, oh, what's this website about? And then we go to the website. So it's kind of tip for tat on both sides.
Hey, someone that actually understands the psychological aspect of people. So, obviously, as an entrepreneur, everything you do does not work. Can you speak on some failures, whether small or big, that you've looked at and were like, wow, that was a complete failure, but the lesson we learned helped us do something different down the line?
Exactly. That's an excellent question. And the thing is, my professor was talking to me about this too, where we're talking about business plans and how relevant they are versus how irrelevant they are. And so you have a business plan, you map out the first maybe 5 years of the company, and my professor was kind of laughing because he goes, you have to do this for class or whatever, but in reality, you don't know what's going to happen next month. Startup, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You don't know if your team's still going to be intact. You don't know if the person's going to leave. You don't know if maybe your funds dry out completely. You just have no idea. So for me, that's you kind of have to figure it out along the way, obviously. But I guess in terms of maybe one of our biggest failure and like that, I'll point to two things. First, just time-wise, thinking that certain things are going to be done by a certain time, and then realizing that there's no chance it's going to be done. But a lot of times it works out to your advantage. So, for example, last year when we were planning the website, I looked at this email a few days ago. I saw, I think, July 20th was the initial date that I picked for it to launch. And the reality was there was no way it was going to be done in March and July. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, we got to get this out as soon as possible. We got to push it. And, to talk to the developer with the team, you just realize it's not realistic. So I end up falling to October, which is a good time because October, December, and into January, February is when people start looking for housing. So something that you could call a failure ended up being a very strong positive for us. And not only that, but on July 20th, who's on campus? You know what I mean? So versus October, where, like I said, we bought all these shirts and we're all over campus and that kind of thing, it really changes the dynamics of things. So there's always a positive in it. And the second thing I'll point to was, so I talked about the blog earlier. Initially, when we set out to do the blog, I had these grandeur ideas for we'll have 10, 15 bloggers, and they'll all talk about different things every week, and people like talking, so they'll love to do it every single week. But then you realize if you're relying on students, their schedules fluctuate. Their interest levels change, and so where maybe on February 1st they're very interested in writing weekly. By the beginning of March, they're like, oh, sorry, Ofo, time-wise it doesn't work. And that's not an indictment against them. It's just that's really reality. You know what I mean? Just you have to worry about those kind of things. So we found that, in that, I ended up doing a lot of blogging. People on the team did a lot of blogging. But then also, now I'm writing more. Now those people on the team are writing more. So there's always a positive in it. You just got to figure out where it is. And I'm sure when you're an entrepreneur, you don't just do one thing. You end up being pretty good at a lot of things.
Yep.
So whether it's blogging or even when we're shooting commercials, starting to do a little bit directing and writing scripts, I don't do that, but that's something you have to do. So,
exactly.
There you go.
Sounds like you're a jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, trying to be a master at some. but yeah, I'll take jack of all trades too.
That's what's up. You mentioned leadership. Obviously, you have a team of 7, and once again, people believe that people we see on TV like Jay-Z, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, whoever, just automatically became great at what they do, but they don't see that the behind the scenes stuff. Can you speak on anything that has helped you, whether it's books, audios, videos, that have helped you to build your mindset or help to build your leadership skills or whatever you feel that makes you the entrepreneur you are?
Yeah, so honestly, what I realized about my pattern of things is I've kind of been more self-taught and through experiences. I've learned a lot of stuff, and then more towards the past 2 years, I've been reading a lot more too. So that's helped a lot. But I'll talk to the experiences first, and I'll talk to the books afterward. When it comes to experiences, I think honestly what got me so involved in leadership roles and that kind of thing was I remember at the end of my freshman year, I was with the Entrepreneurial Food Association, and you kind of have to be part of it at Temple University to be an entrepreneurship major. And I was working with my friend Izat, and he had become the director of the vice president of marketing. And so towards the end of the semester, he had needed somebody to kind of help take a role. They came up with these new positions called directors. So director of events, director of the marketing, whatever your position was, you'd be director under the vice president. And so, he introduced the concept of, somebody being that director, and he went over what that would entail at one of our, individual group meetings. And so everybody kind of looks at each other somebody, I'm sure somebody will take it. But I was one of the people looking at, cause in my head, I'm thinking, I'm so busy with school, and, I just don't have time. And so, which is funny because, being busy freshman year is hilarious looking at it now and not having time now. But, so after the meeting, he was like, Ofo, could you wait up? So I said, sure. He was like to me, nobody really jumped at it, but he's like, I really think you'd be excellent for this role. I think you do a great job. And I said to him, yeah, why not? Why not do it? And so he said, pretty much when I can't be here, you run the meetings, that kind of stuff. And to me, it wasn't really nerve-wracking, but it was different because I'd never really had to run meetings to that respect. come up with agendas, delegate tasks to, I think about 90% of the people there were older than me. So that was different. And then after that semester, I ran for vice president. I was like, why not? I did director and I did go for vice president. So from there, through your experiences, you learn how to really run a team effectively. And then that all went to when I got to CSG and being vice president there. Not only are you working with a large team of students that you have to direct and you have to set up agendas for, meetings for, and meet with all these different administrators. That all happens, but you're also working with tons of students and many different organizations. It's up to you to kind of have a voice at their own organization meetings and their own events. So through experience, you learn a lot of that stuff. And then when it comes to the books, I think about, I read a lot of success books. And actually, I really enjoy them and I get a lot out of them because it's weird when you read them, you tend to see a lot of things, similarities to your own personality. So they're extremely intriguing in that respect. And so, that's really how I guess my mindset has kind of been made up. And then you learn through your experiences with people how to best go about reading and what people need to hear, what different motivating factors and buttons you need to push to get the most out of it.
For sure. Do you have any one book that was like, oh crap, like this is it, this is that aha moment?
So there's Rich Dad Poor Dad. I love that book, and so it's a very good thing that people know about. But I'm actually reading this book right here, right now. It's called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, and it was recommended to me by actually the research and development head of Bloomberg in New York. So it's a great book. It's by Napoleon Hill, and I definitely recommend people check it out. I'm about halfway through that one now, but at this point, I try to read maybe a book a month. So a book every 3 weeks, something like that. So not extremely like fast rate, but something where I'm at least picking up a lot throughout the year too.
Yeah. I think the stat is like the average American reads like one book a year, whereas like the average CEO is reading a couple a month.
Right. My professor was telling me, his name is Dwight Carey, and one of my favorite professors I've had at Temple. And he was telling me I think he reads maybe a book a week, a book every 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's phenomenal. Like, that's what I'm trying to be at. So it helps. Yeah.
I mean, it also like greatens your love for reading. I think I read like 5 books a month sometimes. So
awesome, man.
Yeah. Awesome. But I know we're running out of time. You're a very busy guy, so here's the last question. For people that are looking to either start an entrepreneurship or start some type of journey in general, what is one thing of advice you have for them?
The big piece of advice is map out what you're trying to do. When you come up with your idea, your concept, write it out. Don't focus on the pitfalls. Don't focus on all the legal stuff. Don't focus on the negativity other people might say. Focus on why it's good for people. What are they going to see? What's the benefits they're going to get out of it?
Yeah.
And when you write that down, you really clarify that, and you add, because even when from the jump, you start thinking of other ways to add value. You start thinking of other revenue streams. You start thinking of other things that people find important.
Yeah.
And you bring all that together, and you just write it. And what will happen is you start that's why I said you kind of grew at an incremental rate, because you start realizing what you need as you're going. So you need somebody for marketing. You find somebody for marketing. You need somebody that does finance. You find somebody for finance. But you don't have to do all that from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so if you piece by piece put together your team, put together what you're doing, then other team members, other people that are prospective team members are jumping at the chance to work with you because they see you developing something really strong. And so that's why I stress the most is really spend the time doing the research and writing why what you're doing is very good for people.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're doing is for people. That's what a business is about. So focus on that, and then everything, I promise you, everything else will kind of follow afterwards.
All right, man. I thank you for taking the time out to talk with me. Let people know where they can find you, whatever you're doing, and contact you.
Absolutely, man. So people can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, at WY Landlord. So once again, WYL, and then Landlord. And then on Facebook, it's facebook.com/WY Landlord. You can also look for Untapped as well. There's direct links right from that page. And that's me. That's me in a nutshell. Add me on LinkedIn, Ofo Ezeugwu, OFO. Last name is UGWU. But thanks for your time. I appreciate that.
Not a problem. Once again, I thank you, and keep doing great things, man.
All right, thank you, man. And let me just highlight one last thing. Is when you pointed out, it's who'syourlandlord.com. We use the possessive form of the word who because we're giving students ownership of the situation by putting housing in their hands. So WHOSE, yourlandlord.com. Definitely check it out. Leave ratings, read reviews, and have a ball.
There it is.
Yeah, man.
All right, so you guys got it. And once again, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Thanks for your time, man. I
No
appreciate
problem.
that.
All right.